Good morning. This is Kathleen Clow with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Friday, August 21st, 2026. Today's fire potential headlines include expanding storm coverage, which will move into eastern Nevada and Idaho today and tomorrow, bringing with it a risk of dry lightning this evening into early tomorrow morning for western Idaho and northwestern Nevada. We also do expect to see higher winds across the Sierra Front today and tomorrow, and then across northern central Idaho on Sunday. Fuels wise, overall fire danger is on the rise area wide with above normal values, especially across those northwestern areas. And we did renew the fuel and fire behavior advisory for western Idaho. Changes this week to our fuel and fire behavior advisories include the expiration of that advisory across Utah and Nevada, and then, of course, the renewal of that advisory across western Idaho there due to current conditions. Putting that to a map, today we expect to see that expanded storm coverage moving into eastern Nevada there, as well as portions of Idaho and western Wyoming. And the storms on the western edge of that will be on the drier side. We do expect to see some better moisture across those southern areas near the Arizona Strip and portions of Utah. We also do expect to see some 25 to 35 mile per hour winds today across the Sierra Front, coupled with that low RH. Tomorrow, that area of high winds across the Sierra Front will expand in coverage. We'll also see that storm coverage expand as well, again, with those drier storms on that kind of western edge, bringing that lightning risk really late Friday into Saturday with the dry lightning, and just overall pretty good storm coverage across the entire basin with those storms in eastern Utah and kind of that eastern half there, a little on the wetter side. For Sunday, that storm coverage will decrease and we'll see some mixed storms across still parts of Nevada, but mostly across that eastern half of the basin there, with a few still more on the wet side, especially up in western Wyoming. And we do also expect to see an area of those breezier winds across northern central Idaho there in that 25 to 35 mile per hour range following that lightning risk. Current watches and warnings continue to include those heat advisories across portions of central Idaho and northwestern Utah, as well as some extreme heat warnings down on the strips there for those above normal temperatures. Looking at the past 24 hours, most of our storm coverage occurred across the higher elevations of Utah there, with some scattered isolated storms out east and down on the strips, as well as in parts of Nevada, and then some storm coverage across southeastern Idaho, as well as parts of western Wyoming. Some of those came with pretty good precip amounts, maybe with a half to 3/4 inch of rain in the green there, but some of them on the lighter side as well, and kind of more on the dry side of things. With those storms, we did see quite a bit of lightning, especially across portions of Utah there. So you can see those strikes kind of lining up with our precip. Some of those strikes, again, on the drier side. Over the past 24 hours, the Great Basin had 14 new starts for a total of 947 acres and a large fire growth of 3,959 acres. Satellite this morning shows pretty good cloud cover across large portions of the basin, as well as some lingering storms across southwestern Nevada there with some lightning strikes. Smoke concern wise, we expect to see impacts from the Shoshone fire in central Nevada, as well as the Crooked fire up there in central Idaho, and then a new start across eastern Utah there called the Slow Canyon fire. And overall, we'll see light smoke impacts basin wide with kind of those heavier local impacts from those specific events. So, really, not too many concerns. Looking at our current ERC conditions, you can see ERCs have been on the rise the last 3 days and are forecast to remain on the rise across many areas. We expect to see this Sierra Front approaching that kind of 90 to 97th percentile range. And then also for the Boise Mountains, you'll see they'll get a brief relief from that possible precip, but then right back up in that 90 to 97th percentile range. For eastern Utah as well, although they will see a little bit of monsoonal activity, they will start to be on the rise and into that kind of 80th to 89th percentile category as things start to dry out. Looking at our weather pattern the next 3 days, you can see that kind of storm potential scattered there in the green and black with some drier air intermingled in between all of that. And then, really, by Sunday, things will start to dry out, and you can see kind of those higher winds across central Idaho there. So, really, we're just worried about that storm potential kind of followed by those drier, breezier conditions. So, for today, we expect to see some higher winds across the Sierra Front, and then the rest of that western portion of the basin in that moderate category. And then, really late this evening into early tomorrow, we expect to see a kind of a widespread dry lightning event. Some areas could maybe see a few strikes, some areas with higher coverage, but overall lightning on the drier side, which is concerning given current fuel conditions. So we've got expanded wind risk across kind of northwestern Nevada there for tomorrow, and then that lightning risk as well across that northwestern portion of the basin. And then on Sunday, following that lightning risk, we've got some wind triggers across northern central Idaho there, just due to the high winds coming in, leading to lightning holdovers, etc. We do expect to see a little bit of greening up across Utah from the rain potential over the next 3 days, but again, they'll start to dry right back out. Looking at those wind concerns over the next 3 days, you can see a lot of those gusty storm outflows on the map, but areas to keep an eye on today will be the Sierra Front. You can see that orange there. That area of higher winds will expand tomorrow to cover much of northwestern Nevada and the Sierra Front. And then on Sunday, our high wind concern still remains portions of the Sierra Front, but also will include portions of northern central Idaho there. RH wise, we still have those pretty low RH values across the western half of the basin. You can see those single digit values across portions of northwestern Idaho. And then you can also see some low teens across eastern Utah today. We will see a little bit of RH recovery with this mixed storm potential over the next couple of days, but again, we're still remaining in kind of those mid teen ranges for a lot of our areas. And then Sunday, following that precip potential, we will start to see those RHs drop right away as we dry out. Looking at our precip coverage over the next 3 days, you can see it's pretty widespread, but also a little scattered at the same time, especially across portions of eastern Utah, where we'll see some heavier pockets, but not a ton of widespread coverage. You can see some rain totals. We expect maybe up to a tenth in some areas and some heavier pockets up to a quarter inch kind of each day. And so we'll also see some moderated temps from this precip coming in. Today, we will remain hot and have above normal temperatures, so you can see a lot of triple digits on the map there, 101 up in Boise, kind of 104 out near Moab. And then tomorrow through Sunday, we'll start to cool down a little bit, kind of back to our normal temperatures for the season, mid to upper 90s through Sunday. Looking at the long term, Monday through Wednesday, we'll continue to see that dry air persist over portions of the basin. We've kind of got this four corners high setting up as well, and you can see our kind of next low pressure system lingering off to the west there. But overall, we expect to remain pretty dry and breezy following this weekend's lightning event, which is concerning for holdovers. And you can see on our 7 day maps there, we've got a lot of moderate conditions starting from kind of west to east and expanding through Wednesday. So we're really expecting basin-wide drying kind of following this weekend storm event. And you can see not a lot of yellow left on the map by Wednesday. Looking at our wind concerns Monday through Wednesday, we still expect to see those persistent breezy conditions, especially across the Sierra Front and portions of northern central Idaho there. Wednesday looks to be shaping up to be a bit more breezy than days prior, so we can see those higher winds and kind of that greeny orange mixture and some orange pockets up in northern central Idaho. So we'll be keeping an eye on that depending on what kind of fire starts we get from our lightning. And then you can see also that overall drying trend really intensifying through Wednesday. So by Wednesday, we expect to see some RH values back into the single digits, especially in that kind of northwestern portion of the basin, and then into the lower teens across eastern Utah there. So just overall, back to dry conditions, not really seeing too much long-term recovery from this little monsoonal push. So something to keep an eye on. Our precip chances really start to diminish on Monday. Still, the chance for some scattered stuff across the high elevations of Utah, as well as western Wyoming and a few areas of Idaho. And then, really, by Tuesday and Wednesday, we've got little to no precip chance, maybe a few afternoon pop up things in those high elevations like we've been seeing. And then, overall, temperature wise, we will see a return to more normal temperatures, so kind of those mid to high 90s, which we would expect. And then some increasing temperatures through Wednesday. So, Wednesday, you can see we're kind of back in the triple digits across eastern Utah there, and just a little bit on the rise overall. So again, to kind of recap our precipitation, we'll see kind of our heaviest and most widespread precip through Saturday, and then things kind of start to fizzle out Sunday into Monday, which is kind of our last day of some more widespread precip coverage up in the north. And then Tuesday through Thursday, we expect to see little to no precip, maybe just some pop-ups in the high elevations, but really overall turning back to that drying trend. To summarize our 7 day, again, today we've got that risk for winds across the Sierra Front and moderate conditions across the northwest portion of the basin. That wind risk will expand tomorrow, and we will also add a lightning risk for that kind of Friday evening into early Saturday, a potential dry lightning event. And we'll also see that wind risk on Sunday for northern central Idaho. But overall, the western half of the basin will mostly stay in that moderate category. We're worried about those kind of breezier conditions following some lightning, and we also are worried about the drying as well. So you can see from Tuesday through Thursday, that kind of moderate will expand from west to east to include much of the basin as we enter this next period of warming and drying. Looking at our 6 to 10 day temperature outlooks, you can see a pretty good chance for above normal temperatures across especially Utah there in the bullseye, but overall the Great Basin in general. And looking at our precip outlook, we expect to see near normal precip for the next 6 to 10 days, which is telling us that we're not really expecting to see any large monsoonal pushes anytime soon. So definitely something to keep an eye on. That concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.